Hey, this is Kyle at Projection Hub, and today we're going to be talking about how to write a business plan for a dental clinic or a dentist office or orthodontist or any specialist when it comes to teeth. And I'm going to be walking through step by step an example dental clinic or dentist office. And I'm not going to write the whole business plan in front of you, but I'm going to be showing you an example business plan. And the main point or main purpose we're going to accomplish today is I'm going to highlight the 5 key points that are really going to make or break the success of your business plan, especially if it comes to if you're trying to get financing or get an SBA loan or small business loan or something like that for your dentist office. So that's the perspective I'm going to be bringing to this. So who is Projection Hub? We've helped more than 50,000 small businesses create the financial projections for their businesses, which are a big component of business plans. For their loan applications, if they're trying to raise investment. And who am I? As I mentioned, my name is Kyle. And before my time with Projection Hub, I was actually an SBA lender for about 7 years. And so that consisted of reviewing lots of applications and business plans, several dentists, clinics or offices. I got the chance to work with them. And so some experience when it comes to this realm. And if at any point you find today's video helpful, it's really helpful for us as a small business to, if you like the video, leave a comment and say what you enjoyed about this video. And feel free to subscribe to the channel if you want. Not all of our videos are about dentist office management or business, but we do release a lot of content just about growing a business, running a business, starting a business. And so, yeah, we are going to go ahead and hop in. Okay, so I should have mentioned that this template is totally free. It's available down in the description below. No strings attached. You can get this and use it as a guide as you go through and fill out your own business plan. But I first wanted to touch on, why is your business plan important? Now, this will be quick. It sounds cliche. But the purpose of your business plan is not to educate, the lender or whoever's reading on what a dentist is or what the industry is. It's not a novel concept. They are familiar, with what that is. And so what your job is, you want your business plan to demonstrate your specific plan or path to be successful. Maybe that sounds obvious because it's a business plan, but that's the point of this. You want to leave the reader with high confidence that there's a high degree of likelihood that they're going to do what they say they're going to do, or this plan, if they follow that, it's going to result in them being successful. And so that's the purpose of what we're doing here. Now, again, as mentioned, we're going to go through this whole structure so you can see the outline of an example business plan. And then I will stop and spend more time and highlight those kind of 5 key areas that I think are really the difference makers when it comes to having a successful business plan. So right off the bat, you can tell in the table of contents here, it's not a very long business plan. And I think this is a really important myth to kind of dispel, is your business plan does not need to be long to be good. I actually think that the obvious is more important. The longer your business plan is, the important details tend to get kind of lost in the sauce, of all the extra fluff that you've put in there. And so we want to make sure our business plan is good, but we'll strip back all the extra fluff so that we can really focus on those details. The lender can focus on those details. And so first up is the executive summary. I want you to think about your executive summary as like a cover letter for a job. They're not going to judge you and make your decision entirely off of your executive summary, but it does kind of give the highlights of what's important to your business plan and what they're about to read. Some people who write business plans choose to include some financial information up here, whether that's personal financial information or more so like, how much funding are you going to need, when you plan to break even. You can include that if you'd like to. If not, we'll cover that down in the financial projection section. The company description is kind of just an extension of, the executive summary, but you can focus more on the, what are you doing, where are you doing it, brief history, if you have a unique selling proposition. The USP is one thing I would say. If it's just generic, if you're going to say we're going to have the best customer service, then I just don't know if I would bother including a unique selling proposition, because that just sounds generic. But if you do have a special process or thing you do that really sets you apart, then talk about that, include that in here. Okay, moving along to market analysis, and this is the section that will bring us our first key point. And that, I'll get to that. You can see in here that just includes a general industry overview, competitor analysis. You should know every competitor, every other dentist office, within, a 10-mile radius of your location. Now you can change that distance based upon, how densely populated your area is. If you're the only, if you live in a small town or a rural town, then, you should probably know every dentist in a 20-mile range or 30-mile range. But if you live in a more urban area, then, that circle can be a little bit tighter, but you get the point. You should know every industry or every potential dentist that could be taking clients from you or that you're going to have to share with them. Now, you don't need to list them all in your business plan. Maybe the 1 or 2 that you think will be the most direct competitors. And you should know You should be reading the reviews. Are they well liked? Have they been around for a long time? Have they been established for a long time? Just trying to understand the dynamics of the market. And the key point here is what we want to try to avoid to do in our business plan is just say like, well, I know that, there's an opportunity here. So if I open a dental clinic, it's going to work just fine. We don't want to just assume. And so we want to try and demonstrate some specific examples of any local research that we can do that will kind of support the fact that there is room in the market for our business. And so, obviously there are more expensive ways to go about doing this. You can order a very robust market research report. We offer market research reports and foot traffic reports on kind of a smaller scale. You can check those out. I'll link them in the video below. But there are also plenty of free ways to do this. And I'm going to demonstrate a way to do that for you here. And so I'm going to demonstrate a free way to do that for you here. And as you can see here in the template, there are some examples of ways you can do that. One is a survey, analyze local dental market to identify gaps. That's where I was mentioning, like, read reviews and just find out, are people satisfied with the current offering of dental options in the area? But I really like example 3 here, and I'm going to demonstrate how to do that. This is a really great thing to do for businesses or services that have a physical presence, like a dentist office. And so we're going to go to a tool called Google Keyword Planner tool. So you can create an account for free, Google Ads account, come to the Keyword Planner, and we're going to we want to know how often are these phrases being searched in Google. And I have my location set to Indianapolis. That's where we're going to open our fake dentist office. And I want to know how often those phrases are being searched. And so this tool is going to do some great things. One, it's going to take my 3 ideas and it's going to elaborate. It's going to give me more related searches. It's going to tell me how often on average those are being searched per month, including the trend. And while it's great to see these numbers here, that's not exactly what I'm going to rely on. What's really important to me is the trend data. And so it's great for me to see year over year change, it's growing. So that to me is an indication that the need for my dentist services is growing in my target area. Now, of course, this process isn't going to demonstrate fully, like, it's saying it's growing, but there also might be lots of more dentist locations opening up, right? So it's not necessarily going to do that. That might be harder information for you to grab, but this is at least a good initial test that, like, it's not declining, right? And so that does kind of indicate to me, like, oh, there's room here potentially. Do Google searches just to find all of the dentists that are, again, in your radius that I described. Another good promising factor here is that you can see the competition for these keywords. And so we're growing year over year, and there's not a ton of people. This is advertising competition on Google, right? And so it's pretty low. There's not a lot of people fighting for those keywords, which, if it's a highly competitive market, typically this would be high, right? People are willing to pay more for people to click on that keyword. So that's a promising thing. This is an example of, take screenshots from this. You can put that in your business plan. That's a tangible example of you doing some research. Now, is someone just going to give you a loan because you did that? No, but that looks a whole lot better than someone who just says, like, yeah, we're going to open up a dentist location. So that's key point number 1. Now, moving along to our marketing and sales strategy, you're going to see, this section is going to have key point number 2. But what I first want to kind of point on here is there's a minimum requirement for this section. You want to talk about things like you are going to have a website. You're going to do some advertising. So this section, what you'll see in here is basically the minimum requirement, right? We're going to outline what our products and services are, pricing strategy, how we're going to sell, how we're going to distribute our sale, which, obviously you can't distribute a dentist service. You're going to do some promotions, advertising, you're going to have a website. Like, that is the minimum requirement that should be included. Where the key point comes in is, so we just spent time demonstrating that there's actually room in the market. Now we need to demonstrate, how are we actually going to get those people in the door? So this is, again, what we want to avoid is the build it and they will come type mentality. This should be, again, the low requirement is what's already on here. How to really set this apart is anything we can do to demonstrate, I guess, what some people would call as traction in, like, the tech space. It's a little bit more difficult in, like, a highly specialized service that requires licensing and certification like a dentist clinic would. But you can get creative here, right? So the ideal form of traction is if you can demonstrate pre-sales before you even launch. That's probably a little bit harder to do in a dentist space. But the next best thing is increasing the likelihood that people are going to be there to show up when you open. So that can be collecting lists of friends, family, neighbors, friends of friends, hosting a free clinic to collect some names and share about your plans to open, offer a promotion like for the first 100 people, they're going to get a discount or a free cavity filling, or I don't know. Get creative and just start getting names on a list. So that way you can say to your lender, we already have collected the names of 460 people in the community that had expressed they'd like to use our services if we were to open. That's a really great thing. That shows hustle, that shows higher odds you're going to be successful in your plan. And so demonstrate that, be creative. A lot of people like to skip this part because it requires them to do something uncomfortable and take a risk to kind of build that traction versus just, they like being a dentist and maybe that's what they're good at and they just want to open it and they just want to be a dentist. But the reality of being the business owner is that you're going to have to also hustle and be entrepreneurial and increase the likelihood of that happening. So that's an example of customer acquisition demonstration. Moving along, operations and management. So here you're going to outline the structure of the organization, who's on the team, and key point number 3 is we want to highlight relevant industry experience. Now, with an industry like a dental clinic, this is really important. So we want to make sure that the owners have relevant experience in the industry or a similar industry. And if you don't, or you lack some form of experience, that you have a partner or key members on the team that can make up for that lack of experience. In an industry like this one, typically the owner is going to be the lead dentist, right? So they're likely going to have that experience. It's pretty uncommon, I think, for someone to just decide to start a dentist office and not to be a dentist themselves. That can create extra overhead that's unnecessary. But even if you are a dentist, do you have experience running your own before? Like, what experience do you have? And outline what that's like, just to give your lender some confidence that you know what you're getting yourself into and you know what you're going to be doing. So yeah, and also being a dentist does not equate to like effectively knowing how to run and manage a business, right? So maybe you have a key partner that's more admin focused or operational or something like that, that will round out your kind of experience profile. All right, moving along to the big one, financial plan or financial projections. Obviously, we're a little biased being Projection Hub, but this is the most important section of your business plan. And when I was a lender, that the same was true. We would read the business plan or skim the business plan, but then we would spend a lot of time with the financial projections in the personal financial component, but we're not focused on that today. But the financial projections are very important. So in here you can see we've got an outline of our startup costs, how, what kind of funding are we seeking for the startup costs, like how much are we going to need. We've got an overall breakdown here of, the revenue we're estimating over 5 years and some high financial, metrics, some dentist specific, assumptions like how many new patients, what's our patient churn rate going to be, pay per dentist, revenue per dentist, revenue, total pay per hygienist. So we've got some specific things in there. Our breakdown of like our overhead, which are operating expenses, the recurring expenses. We've got a 5-year, pro forma or projected income statement or profit and loss statement. Same thing for cash flow projections, same thing for balance sheet. And then we've got a simple break-even analysis there. In a quick plug, all of those projections were made using this template. I'll link this down in the description below. I can assure you, unless you have experience or you've made your own tool or you're an accountant or a friend of an accountant, getting a template is going to be the easiest way to do this. And this is the section of the business plan where a lot of business owners, their eyes kind of just glaze over because it can feel a little overwhelming. The job of this template is to make that easier. So only the blue areas are where we're going to edit things. So simple here. What kind of things are you going to need to purchase to open the business? What kind of loans are you planning on? It'll even help you calculate, do you have enough cash? Is that sufficient? We've got this specialized revenue tab. Now this looks overwhelming at first. I promise it's not hard to use. Again, we're only editing the blue sections, and it's as simple as helping us figure out how many patients we're going to be gaining. What services are we going to be offering? How often are those services used? All estimates, right? And then these are just calculations that are happening automatically. We're going to put in our expenses. As you can see here, this is more like overhead, things that are going to be recurring. And then our team, our payroll, our dentists and our hygienists and our admin, we can plan those out here when we want them to start over the course of 5 years. So we can kind of look again out in the future. And that's going to calculate all these charts and graphs for us that you can grab and put right in your business plan. They are made to be ready for a lender. As a lender, I would have loved to have seen projections look this way every time they came to me. So that will be linked down in the template or down in the description below. You can grab that if you need it. If you stick around at the end of the video, I'll even give you a discount code that you can use to get that cheaper. So financial projections are not key point number 4 though. Similar to the marketing section, financial projections are a minimum requirement. You have to have them, or else your business plan, you're not gonna be able to fulfill in a loan application or a startup loan application without projections. What is key point number 4 is having realistic and projections that are within industry norms, industry averages. And so when your lender looks at this, is there going to be any parts where they're like, whoa, that's really high to expect X, Y, and Z, for a dentist or something like that. Or that's a number, that number is way too low. It's going to cost more than that. So you might be thinking, well, how would I know? You might have the experience to know some of those ranges, but my recommendation would be get your projections back out again. I like to use this at a glance tab because it highlights some of the key numbers, and then use a tool, just use Google searches, or if you're even comfortable using a tool like ChatGPT or something like that's a really good option. And I just asked it, what are some typical averages, some benchmarks for a dentist office, right? So it's going to give me some of that information, and then I just compare that to my projections to see if they're within range. So let's see, net income ranges from 15 to 25%. Okay, we go back and check. What are we thinking? Started out 6%, 7%, 9%, 10%, growing up from there. So I actually, even though that's a little bit lower than that range was given, I like that as a lender because that's more conservative. Oftentimes people's projections are kind of pie in the sky and they're not very realistic. So that's great that we're not assuming it's going to be more profitable than the average because, that gives us some wiggle room to do that. So that is a good example of how to use, you can do that same thing with just Google. Ask Google, what's a typical gross profit margin? What's an average churn rate for a dentist office? And just compare that to your projections and make sure you're not, way out in left field to do that kind of quick check. So hopping back to our projections or to our template, that gives us, that pretty much rounds out the business plan, but we're missing one key point, and that is demonstrating skin in the game, which we'll talk about just briefly. Again, this pertains a lot more to if you're trying to get financing or a business loan for your startup or your expansion or whatever you're planning to do. But the bank or the lender, they are going to want to see, you share in the risk, basically. They're going to be funding the large portion of whatever that is, but they're not just going to give that to you, with no risk on your end. So think about this like if you're buying a house, their percentage of that you're going to be expected to pay is a down payment. And, in the event that you would default on that mortgage or on that loan, you're not going to get your down payment back, and you're also going to lose the house because the bank has a lien on that house. Same concept goes for your business. If you're asking for a $100,000 loan, the bank might say, we'll give you $80,000, but they're going to expect collateral. A dentist office is not a super asset heavy, business unless maybe you own the building, then that would be right there. That could be your collateral. If you don't have a lot of assets in the business, then it might require a personal asset being pledged as collateral, or, you're probably gonna have to personally guarantee the loan. Like there's some different things like that are gonna feel a little uncomfortable that you should just expect to know what your options are. Now you don't have to put those in your business plan, but you just need to have those kind of in your back pocket and not be surprised when the conversation goes that way with your lender. And so another quick thing I'll mention is all the time when I was a lender, people would come to me and say that they had received the advice to keep personal and business separate. And so they only want the business on the loan, they don't want personal on the loan. That's great advice when it comes to your bank account and your bookkeeping, keep all of that separate. But when it comes to, collateral or guarantees on the loan, that is unrealistic advice. You're not going to get your financing. Or if you do, it's probably going to be at a place with a much higher rate if it's going to be an unsecured loan. So that's just something to keep in mind. Again, you don't have to just explicitly say that in your business plan, but don't be surprised and be prepared to know what you're willing to offer when that comes up. And that is it. That is how to write a dental clinic or dentist office business plan with the 5 key areas that will kind of make the difference in making your business plan as good as it can be. Now, I promise you, if you stayed till the end, I will give you a promo code if you are interested in picking up the projection template. There's PH20BP, that'll get you a 20% discount on that template. I don't know if I had mentioned, but there is a video guide on how to fill out the template. We offer support, so we're here to answer questions as you go through it. We do offer the market research report, foot traffic report. I link those down as well. So feel free to take advantage of those if that would be helpful to you. But like the video if this was helpful for you, leave us a comment if it was as well, and let us know how we can help you. Thanks.